There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
I don't know what's up, and welcome into this post-game pod edition of the Program Guys podcast. Mason Prince, Matt Gann, Mark Hall with you here today. We are right after the game on Saturday, October 26th. Oklahoma loses 26-14 in Oxford, Mississippi to number 18 Ole Miss. They dropped to 4-4 on the season, 1-4 in SEC play. Not what you want.
Yikes.
Be sure to like, subscribe on our YouTube channel. Find us on all of our social media at Program Guys with a Z on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can find us there. Also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. That's where you can find us. Boys, opening thoughts. Just your quick, 30-second synopsis of how you're feeling of after what you just watched, Mark.
Strong first half, very, very encouraging play out of both sides in the first half. And then in the second half, I thought you saw a good bit of the talent disparity as well as maybe just running out of gas a little bit on both sides out of Oklahoma.
Yeah, what you got,
Tale
Matt?
of two halves.
Tale of two halves. Matt?
Tale of two halves for sure. And then I would just say there are some positives, I think, to take from this game, whereas the last few weeks, I don't think there's been a lot to talk about, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But what we saw in the first half was nice to see. Now, was that a little bit of new play caller? There's no tape on Joe John Finley calling plays, or was we actually being able to move the ball? Maybe we had a little bit of juice. So at least it was encouraging to see that we can actually put points on the board against SEC opponents.
It's never been more glaring that your offensive line is an issue. However, I will say this. Yes, there is no tape on Joe John Finley. And that probably had a lot to do with it. But I'm also going to say this. The game plan going in looked way better. The ideas, even the quote-unquote complicated stuff, like the direct snap to Taylor Tatum that they'd kind of counter with, even that was simple. That's simplified. It's a direct snap, and he takes a sidestep and goes the other way. And, that was... besides the trick plays, and we'll freaking get to that. I liked the offensive game plan. Now, look, if you think Joe John Finley's the answer after today, folks, I got bad news for you because there's still going to be an OC search at the end of the year. But I think today showed more than anything that Jackson Arnold is your guy, and you need to do whatever you can to, number one, get him to stay in Norman, and number two, build around him. Find a way to build around him. That's what today showed me.
Are we just going to start with the offense? It seems like all of our first thoughts are there, right?
Yeah.
I think you found an identity in that first half offensively in going a little bit bigger, bringing both tight ends onto the field. We had a full house backfield at least one time in the first couple of drives that I really love to see because you're able to use these formations in ways that throw off the defensive keys. We haven't been doing that. We've just been throwing out 4 wide receivers, whoever we've got, or 3 receivers and Bauer Sharp, whoever we've got, and having them run routes. Unfortunately, it sort of devolved into that as we got down because what can you do? You're down. But tough, hard-nosed running the football. Ole Miss had the number 1 rushing defense in the SEC going into this game. And Javonte Barnes and Taylor Tatum combined for 109 yards, just the two of them. Jackson puts up 39, saving my over 13.5 parlay or prop on that final run of the game. And they really did find something there. Unfortunately, they just can't pass block. And then when you lose Jacob Sexton, you see just how flimsy things can be right there. But hell of a game out of Javonte Barnes, man. He keeps running tough.
A fantastic game from Javonte Barnes. I find it glaringly obvious that for whatever reason, they don't trust anybody on that team to catch passes right now besides Bauer Sharp and Jacob Jordan when he's available and open. But it's never been more obvious. I feel as though Jackson was not even looking the direction of anyone else. And the amount of plays drawn up specifically for Bauer Sharp is kind of wild. It's pretty wild.
We called that Joe John Finley might be scheming himself into quite a few plays. And I mean, 8 receptions, 53 yards. So it clearly was the the plan moving forward, at least for this game.
Another kudos for Javonte Barnes, leads the team in receiving yards as well. He was an excellent outlet today. I think I only saw one time he even sort of fumbled around with the ball before securing the catch and making some yards. Averaged 11 yards a play out of the backfield. That's not the same guy that we saw last year or 2 years ago even. So kudos to him. And man, the offensive line looked good in the first quarter.
They did.
Right?
They did.
The scripted stuff all looked really good. Now, Jacob Jordan being the only receiver to catch a football in the first half, that doesn't feel great. And that's the kind of thing that, as you get tape on Joe John Finley and what he's trying to accomplish with the offense, you're going to have to find ways to counter what they'll defend you with. But for today, man, it did look good while it had the chance to look good.
They had, how many trick plays they run? They ran a reverse pass. They ran a screen pass. They did a couple of other things. None of them worked. And I'm not saying that's on Joe John Finley. I'm just saying none of those worked at all. My biggest issue with it is, and I was talking to Matt about this right before we came on. You start at the 2-yard line after an absolutely abysmal decision from Peyton Bowen, by the way. All-time brainworms move right there. But you're all the way down. You drive, you get a late hit out of bounds and a 15-yard penalty, and you get to the 11-yard line. And this is your drive. This is it. And you decide, after getting all the way down there and moving the ball efficiently with the intermediate passing game and running the ball forward with Javonte Barnes, you decide to run a tight end screen pass to the short side of the field to Bauer Sharp. I don't get it, man. I don't understand where that comes from. Like, I get it. Time's running down. You need a play. But, like, you got down there by just doing what you were doing. You didn't need to do that bullshit right there. You didn't need to. Like, we were desperate to score. I get it. You had to score on that drive. It's well known. But then you go tight end screen pass to where Bauer Sharp doesn't even throw it. Then you run the ball, barely get any yards, and then 2 sacks in a row. And you're done. And Logan Howland is moving like he's in quicksand on the biggest snap of the game. It's impossible to help yourself when you do stuff like that. And I wanted to give Joe John Finley and the offense credit. Really, up until the second half started, the whole first half, I should say, how many third and manageables were we in? It was 3rd and 4, like every time.
Great point.
Every time. That's how you survive with an offense that's not explosive. That's how you survive. And they did that. And then they stopped. And then they just stopped doing it. And then that's when you saw 3 and out to start the second half, and you go down. Like, they got away from the things that were successful. And it's the case with this offense over and over again. It doesn't matter who's calling it. They just go away from the things that are working.
Yeah, it was a very bad drive-killing penalties as well, 7 for 71, just ill-advised play calling, to your point. I think that's just the growing pains of implementing an offensive coordinator 1 week after you fire your other one. So I think that's what we're learning now is that, hey, in the first half, it was very encouraging that, hey, we're putting points on the board. I mean, OU fans have been screaming for it. Let's get in the end zone. And if you would have told me we were going to be up at halftime and we scored 2 touchdowns, I would have never believed you.
Yeah.
But it's very encouraging to see the offense had a little bit more juice. Offensive linemen were getting out on blockers. We were averaging a little over 4 yards a clip if you don't include Jackson Arnold's rushing in there. And it was those balanced attacks, 182 passing, 147 rushing. That's over 300-plus yards. I don't think we've seen a 300-yard game since the beginning of the year against Temple.
Yeah, at least since the third game.
At least you can take a little bit of positives from it. And then obviously in the second half, it very well dissolved. Giving up over 9 sacks is not going to do anyone justice. But that was also the same problem Seth Luttrell was dealing with. Yeah. A horrible offensive line play is going to lead to a lot of what we saw when Jackson Arnold doesn't have enough time. And I'm glad Jackson Arnold is getting his kind of second coming because we do the talent and the arm. And you saw on that play, this touchdown to Jacoby, where he escaped multiple defenders, got outside the pocket, and threw the touchdown. That's what we wanted to see. And that's what you have to do with this offensive line. But Jackson Arnold is the QB going forward. There shouldn't be a discussion about it. You have to be able to scheme him up plays like they did in the first half, but also continue that into the second. They just, to your point, Mason, got away with what was working, which is very frustrating, knowing that you have a chance in this game to pull it out on the road.
I think we've all talked about how good it looked in the first half. It concerns me that when you get past that script and then you're suddenly in a new way in the second half, it concerns me that we don't really have counter punches. We just have different Bauer Sharp plays. And there's several of them. There's several of these. You know, they come in your classic, let's throw him the ball so he can throw the ball. As a former quarterback at Southeastern Louisiana, there's your classic tight end screen down by the goal line. There's your classic from last week, 2 yards out after he drops the football, shovel pass. It's clear that Joe John Finley wants the tight end position to be this big special thing. The play I was most impressed by from Bauer Sharp was one where he ran about a 7-yard up and then stopped, turned around, caught the football, and then just went down. That's what I need him to be doing, is be a real outlet for Jackson. If he is the focal point of the offense is going to score 14 points every week. If that, you got to find other ways of getting production than just force feeding your favorite kids.
Yeah. I want to know, like, so I love Louis Riddick. I love Louis Riddick a ton. And him doing the game was fantastic, but he's saying, and he knows the offensive line troubles, but he's saying towards the end of the game, there's like 8 minutes left. He's like, got to take a shot downfield. And I'm like, Louis, do you know who's on the field? Like, who's it going to throw to? JJ Hester, Zion Reagans, who can't get off press coverage? Like, they can't do it. And his offensive line can't block anybody to even let someone get downfield. I feel like
trick pass to Zion Reagans.
Yes, I noticed it. It was the reverse to Brendan Thompson, right? And the deep pass. Yeah.
Let's use our smallest players to facilitate a trick pass down the field.
Just I'm trying to give Joe John a little credit. Like, it was exponentially better. Again, hard to be worse, right? Exponentially better. I know what this offense is. If you play like you do in the first half and you give me 21 points a game, you're going to be hard pressed to find me bitch and complain for the rest of the year. Like, I'm going to have a hard time doing it because I know what this offense is and I know what they're capable of. So 21 points is pretty much what we need to be shooting for, I think. And we're close, and you were down in the red zone a couple times as well. And you're not able to punch it in. Hate going for it on the opening drive on fourth down. Kick the ball, take the points. You can't score at all. So just kick the ball, take the points. That's not a Joe John decision. That's a Brent decision. That's just me. I know you were different, Mark.
And it's one, I disagreed with. I liked the decision to go for it on the road. You've put a drive together. How long has it been since that's happened? You want to get your sophomore first away start quarterback, whatever, some confidence in the beginning of the game. I just don't understand the play call. We've never seen the 5 wide look really work out well for Jackson, except for maybe some Jack offense last season. And I don't think what you need to be going for in that situation. Even if you want to throw like a slant pass to Bauer Sharp, man, at least you're like trying something. Yeah. But this goofy Tim Tebow play is just giving the defense more time to crash down on you. Very goofy stuff. And in that, I think bad coaching, bad decision making. Matt, you've been quiet. What do you think of that?
Sorry, Matt.
The decision to go for it.
No, I think I like being aggressive on the road, giving Jackson Arnold, because he looked a lot sharper in this game, making decisions, especially running the football when he needed to use his legs. That's what we wanted to see, that dual threat ability to be able to get outside of the pocket if he needed to. And so the play call itself, not in love with, especially 5 wide when you're 2 yards out. So I would like a little bit more of a bunch formation. and seeing a different play call than, to your point, Mark, a Tim Tebow, which obviously no one believed was
No one at all.
Not
No.
even a flinch. So again, a lot of positives I'm going to take from the first half that they can continue to work on and build on. But when you give up 9 sacks and 15 tackles for losses, it's going to put your offense in a really bad position, which a lot of that came in the second half. So I'm not sure how you work around with that, knowing that that's what you have the offensive line moving forward. So it really makes me frustrated that none of these freshmen are getting a shot. It just tells me they're not ready, which means that we have to deal with what we have moving forward.
Real quick on the offensive line, Mark, Max Olson, give him credit. Oklahoma has now allowed 38 sacks on the season, currently the most in the FBS. Gave up 9 again today versus Ole Miss. Most OU has allowed in a single season since 2004 is 41. In 2015,
That's
we have more than 4 games left. Go ahead, Mark.
Gosh.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much over the young guys aren't ready thing now. I have consistently been beating that drum too, where it's like, hey, if the coaches aren't putting them on the field, there's a reason. There's a reason. But today you see once again, there is just no moving forward with the offensive line. There's no development. The first half again looks good, but then when things go bad, you lose Sexton. There's nothing else there. We're thin as paper.
Yeah.
It doesn't work if one guy going down like that crumbles the entire thing the way that it did. Logan Howland is clearly not ready. All right, cool. We can see that young guy. We can't see these young guys. Let me see what those 2 dudes can do at the guard positions, because we're getting beat up front in the interior just like we're getting beat outside. Logan Howland is just way more visible when it happens because his dude is going to the NFL next season.
Babechi Wewu is lost. He's lost. He's a turnstile. He cannot block anybody.
Seth Littrell's Bauer Sharp. Seth
Dude,
Littrell's Bauer Sharp.
For real. Like I can't do it anymore, man. There's just no way. There's no way that one of those young guys can give you anything less than what Fabechi Wewu was giving you right now. There's just no way. I don't buy it. I don't at all. I don't buy it. Taylor Tatum fumbled again. You got to stop. I know you're a freshman. I know you are. I got a feeling if Gavin Sawchuk was healthy, we may not have seen Taylor Tatum again. Because that's all. But also, you don't even see Caleb Hicks after that fumble. So I think that tells you something as well. Like, I don't know, man. It's all not good, but it all stems from the offensive line. That to me is the main issue. And I know I'm beating a dead horse right now, but all in all, like, they did better than I thought they were going to do on the offensive side of the ball, and it still left me for wanting more. Of course, but I think you leave this game today knowing that Jackson Arnold is the guy, and whatever you have to do to keep him around is probably the right move. And boosters, I'm talking to you. It's not my money, but I'm talking to you. Go ahead, Mark.
Ultimately, you're able to sustain drives a little bit better today. We win the time of possession battle 33-45 to 26-15. That's good. That's a good, way to establish an offense. You've just got to be able to dial up some kind of explosive play that isn't Bauer Sharp, and even when you get punch back in a way that I'm not sure we saw very well today. Hopefully Brent can get a word in the offensive meeting this week with the coaching staff and just say, hey, let's do some other stuff. It's not just Bauer Sharp on this team. We didn't bring him in here to be wide receiver 1.
Brent's too busy figuring out when he should call a bad timeout. That's what he's busy with during the week. It's insane. It's insane.
Were you 3? Were you
Huh?
3? It's year 3 now?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Of Brent Venables?
Yeah.
That's a year 1 mistake.
I think I saw a tweet. It wasn't Josh Calloway, maybe George or Parker Thune. All due respect, I get all those guys. I get all those guys confused. They're like different, same face, different name to me. Anyway, I think someone tweeted like, it feels like Brent Venables is due for one of those weird timeouts a game like that just crush you.
Saw this tweet too.
And it feels right. It really does. I don't understand why you call that timeout just to go back out there and punt. Why even do that? What do you gain from doing that? In the fourth quarter's, 12 minutes, 13 minutes left, I think. What do you gain from that? Nothing.
You have one of the best punters in the
Yeah.
country. You show every week that you trust your punter so much, and you want to give up a timeout for 5 yards. Did you think you were going to go for it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure they ever, Louis Riddick actually, or
Yeah.
whoever the announcer was, and Louis Riddick pointed this
Yeah.
out, and they did so very well. It was like, hey, you should know when you make your third down call
Yeah.
if you're going forward on fourth down, right?
Yeah. And that may be
Oklahoma
a Joe John
didn't seem to have that.
Yeah. And that may be a Joe John Finley thing as well. Like being new to it and not really knowing and having that communication with Brent, like, hey, are we going for it here? Like, or do I have two plays or do I have one?
Brent Venables' failure.
I agree. No, I completely agree. I completely agree. Because you're the head coach and you fired a dude this week, so you got to make sure the new guy knows what the hell's up. That's what you got to do.
Those communication lines have to be clear and they have to be active during the game.
Yeah. Let us know down below in the comments.
Offense because you're a DC. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, let us know down below in the comments what you thought of the offense. Feel like we've talked enough about them. We can kind of move on to the defense here a little bit, guys, if you would like. Matt, your thoughts on the defense.
Yeah, same story. Bend don't break. Defense kept us in this game until the third quarter, fourth quarter. But that's what we've seen so far this year. The defense is going to give us every opportunity to the offense to score points and to be able to hold opponents. And listen, I was one of the guys that said Ole Miss was going to score 40 plus because they've been averaging over 560 yards per game. And listen, they end up with a little over 380, but most of that was passing. And Jackson Arnold picked apart the zone defense quite
Jackson
a
Dart.
bit. Sorry, Jackson Dart. But you can see that the rushing defense, their Henry Parrish only went 15 for 44 and in combination 31 for 69. So on the ground, it's going to be very hard to run against this OU's defense. We clearly saw that. But when you don't have sustained drives like in the second half and you give no pressure, only one sack on the day, it's going to give too much time to Dart. He's too good of a quarterback, even with Ole Miss's top wide receiver out who got hurt last week. It's just too much time for these guys to get open and pick apart the zone defense. That's what we saw in the second half. But, kudos to the defense for, again, continues to give us some opportunities to stay within these games. It's just too tall of an ask, I think, that we've seen in the last few weeks.
Mark, jump in after this, but I have one comment on what Matt said. We had the one sack, and the one sack literally it had to be reviewed to even be sure it was a sack. Like there was no pressure all day. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, you'd like to see Brent dial up some more. Well, Brent and Zach Alley, right? Mm-hmm. This is one where I see them sort of as a duo here. You want to see them dial up a little bit more pressure, especially when you know that you're weak on the backside right now. And at the cornerback position specifically, they were just catching everything over them, man. It was everything down the sideline was wide open territory for Jackson Dart. And he's a senior. He's going to make those throws. He's been successful in the SEC for several years now. He is going to make those throws and cook you in ways that quarterbacks haven't been able to cook those corners just yet. Basically, if you're not Eli Bowen, you're not playing well. And I don't really understand it because I considered that to be one of the strengths of the team coming into the year. We see this funky Jacoby Johnson move, and now he's back on defense, but he only comes in and plays certain drives randomly. He was getting regular snaps at the beginning of the season. What has happened to Makari Vickers? Is he hurt?
I have no idea.
If he is, I don't think I know about it. And the guys that we're throwing out there are simply just not making the play. And every now and then it's also, we saw Peyton Bowen miss on guy coming into his zone during the game too. So some failures that we haven't seen, and credit to Lane Kiffin, credit to Jackson Dart. They're good at this. At the same time, you've got to be able to adapt and see that you're getting cooked deep, get some kind of pressure on this guy.
Any kind. it felt as though Kanai Walker was a liability all day. And I feel like they were picking on him. It
Totally
showed.
agree. They were.
It showed. It really did. Credit to Ryan. Ryan was in attendance at the game, and anytime Kanai Walker got burned, he just texted 26. Just anytime. And he was right. I mean, it was rough, man. It was not. Did we have a good defensive play in the secondary all day? I can't think of one off the top of my head. Truly can't. I think Des Malone had a pass breakup that, like, I think he got lucky. That could have been PI over the middle, but that's all that comes to mind. I also
Guys
the
were in
middle
coverage here and there, but
Yeah,
no one
and-
was making plays. And
No.
we've got a defensive backfield that you sort of expect. You expect Billy Bowman to go in and make a play. Instead, we
I
got
know.
a face mask along the sideline.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was his most consequential play on the day.
Yeah, I didn't hear Billy's name a ton at all. That's unfortunate. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think because, like, yeah, like you said, Matt, they did their job for the most part. They slowed down a very vaunted offense and they did their job. But also you go out there and there's times where you're like, you had him 3rd and 14 and you let Jackson Dart escape your pressure that you had him dead to rights. Like, you surround him and you let him escape and he rolls right. And as Danny is grabbing his feet, he throws a little floater over the top that Kanai Walker's not looking at, and then you're done. It's stuff like that, man, that you're just like, what are we doing? You had him dead to rights. He's done. He's done. Make the sack. Make the tackle. Go get him. And you just don't. And credit to Jackson Dart. He had a great game. He escaped pressure very well. He's part of why we were unable to get pressure. He escaped the pocket very well when he needed to. But I also think the onus is on the defensive line and the DNs a little bit to go get him. I liked what I saw out of Jaden Jackson. Thought Jaden Jackson had a good game. He had a pass deflection at the line on a screen, a wide receiver
Caden Woolard
screen.
played well.
Who?
Caden Woolard.
Yeah, Caden Woolard played well. I thought Ethan Downs made a play on a 4th down to turn the ball over. They had good plays like you talked about, Matt. It's weird. It sucks. It sucks for them, but you have to be so damn good to even give your team a shot to win a game. And it sucks, but that's where we're at.
Do we know anything about Dominic Williams?
He was back in. I saw him. Yeah, 52. Okay. He was back in.
That's on me.
I saw him. He was back in, but I don't know like how many snaps or whatever he
I didn't
played.
see him much after, and I definitely heard a little bit more DeJoun Terry after it. So I just assumed he didn't come back in. Yeah. Matt, what do you think about? I'm starting to think Danny might not be right. Like, the cowboy collar is obviously a new thing this season from several weeks ago. And I don't want to blame the failures elsewhere on Danny, because a lot of times he's the one chasing down a play because someone else didn't make it. Right. So it can be hard to tell, but I'm not sure we're getting the same guy that we got last season.
I mean, he led the team in tackles like he always does.
Always does.
I also think Kip Lewis has stepped up bigger. So I think there's been more of a magnifying glass on Kip Lewis, because he's been the one that's almost been a Danny Stutzman-esque, almost a Danny Stutzman minifigure out there, because he has been flying over, making plays in the backfield. So maybe it's just more of a rotation that we've seen between the linebackers because it has so much depth, but they have also been asked to do quite a bit, right? Other than stopping in the run, the coverage has not been great, really, by any of these guys. So that's really the problem, is the guys are getting wide open across the middle. Is that the linebackers? Is that some of the zone that they're playing? But that's the problem. If we're not going to play press coverage, which we didn't do all game, if there's a lot of time and no pressure, they're just going to continue to pick us apart. So you're asking a lot of those guys, because in the BB scheme, you're asking these linebackers to play in coverage, but also stop the run and everything else. And you just have to be elite athleticism to do that. So I don't think it was necessarily Danny looking off. I think he's still playing the way he is, but there's just been a lot of good rotation with all the depth that the linebackers have.
But to your point, Matt, by the way, a lot of Kobe McKenzie today as well, which was, I like to see that. I enjoyed, I thought he had a good game
And the
as
defense
well.
played well.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
ultimately
Yeah.
we are pointing out the things that didn't look good, but I think almost all of us had them scoring more than 26 points.
Mhm.
I just went back and looked. I think we all had them scoring at least. I think I was the closest with 27,
Yeah.
but I was wrong because I had us scoring more. So
Mhm.
Well, but and we didn't see a lot of R. Mason Thomas, right? Not getting a lot of pressure, and even in the fourth quarter, not making plays like he usually does.
I distinctly remember seeing R. Mason Thomas in the game and him getting around the edge, and like as soon as he beat his blocker, that's when Jackson Dart's escaping the pocket, and and he's running the opposite way of R. Mason. And I'm just like, God damn, man, like every freaking time. But to Mark's point about Danny, and to your point as well, Matt, because Brent asked so much of those linebackers, that's what makes me think Mark is right, that there is something a little off with Danny, because you have to be 100% right on everything all of the time. And if you're not feeling 100% somewhere, that's going to mess you up. He's got the cowboy collar. He's got the freaking elbow brace. Who the hell knows what's going on? And he leads the team in tackles. That's a lot of physicality. It's a ton. He was third in the SEC coming into the game in tackles. Like, the dude is everywhere. And I give him a lot of credit. He's a great linebacker, and he's going to go down as one of the better ones in the history of OU. But
he's on the list.
Yeah, but there's a ton asked of him. And if he's not 100% right, sadly, I think it is going to show, to Mark's point. I think it is going to show a little bit.
Well,
not that he had a bad game, you know?
Well, and I think the up-tempo offense that Ole Miss runs when they're snapping the ball like every 15 seconds, that's just going to wear you down when you're not getting pressure and not making plays on third down when you do have them in those types of situations. So I don't think there's a lot of times where I think the defense was playing a little bit on their heels more often than they were going downhill that we've seen the last few weeks. And again, that's just the style that Ole Miss plays. So I think that kind of showed in the second half, really, of one of those little bit more openings in the backside.
This would have been a game I'd have been happy to see some more Jaren Cannon.
Yeah.
Bring him in, just send him every time. That should be, I mean, I've been beating that drum for an entire year now, but it's what he's best at. And this is a game where you needed to get more pressure than we got. We're sending 4 and it's not doing it. We're sending 3 and it's not doing it. We're sending 5 sometimes and it's not doing it.
Yeah. But I credit to Zach Alley and Brent that last drive for Ole Miss where you needed to stop. It's third down and 4, I want to say, or third down and manageable. And you send Danny on a blitz and he's unblocked and he's right in Jackson Dart's kitchen immediately. And it causes an incompletion. That's great. That's great defensive scheming, great calling.
Coaching.
You know where to put Danny to where he's not going to get blocked and he's going to be a free rusher. That's great. That's the kind of stuff you need. And they still have it in them, obviously. It's just, man, it sucks. I feel like they had a really good shot today, and the offense, sadly, again, didn't give them an opportunity. And we say it every week. At what point does it start to add up mentally for these guys? And it just gets tough. Brent continues to reassure us that it's not going to be an issue. And I hope to God he's right, man. Because if I was on that team and I'm working my ass off every freaking series, and you guys go out there 3 and outs to start the second half, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna be freaking mad. Like, that's crazy.
I think we see it every week a little bit more. I think the body language is just a little bit different on the defensive side of the ball every week, and you need a guy like Kip Lewis last week against South Carolina to just try and raise everyone up because they're demoralized, and hopefully they're not turning on the offensive guys. I think you can really see with the reemergence of Jackson that there's something there to count on, but I think they're getting tired, man. They're getting worn down. They're not being put in advantageous positions. Matt?
Agreed. I mean, when was the last time? I mean, you saw it in the first half. You saw the juice that both the offense brought, but the defense as well. So can't sustain that the entire game. That's where the offense has to step up.
Cool. Let's do our MVPs of the game. Mark, who's your MVP?
Javonte Barnes brought it every single play. I had it just now. He's got 67 rushing yards, 57 passing yards, led OU in both categories, and was an outlet for Jackson, as well as a more than capable pass blocker. He took on rushers very capably throughout the game, and he's clearly RB1 at this point. So my MVP, Javonte Barnes.
Cool. Mine's Bauer Sharp. No, my MVP, and everyone's gonna be like, he caught a touchdown. It's like, yeah, okay. Jackson caused that touchdown by stepping up in the pocket and like getting him in that position.
We got box score watchers saying stuff like that.
For real, dude. For real. It was going to be Barnes, but I'll go ahead and give it to Jacob Jordan. Just the receiving touchdown, and obviously, the only guy that they feel comfortable throwing to besides Bauer Sharp for whatever reason.
Bird walk on. There's no one else. That is nuts to me.
Yeah,
we are Oklahoma. Are you kidding me?
They put him on the game day graphic, bro. Like they put him, like, all due respect, man. I respect you as a player. Like, you've come in and you've shown out, but like, we're Oklahoma and like we're throwing Jacob Jordan on a game day graphic. And we got Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowman, Jackson Arnold, all these names, Javonte Barnes even. We're putting Jacob Jordan out there to try to get people pumped up. Like, dude, it's crazy.
Where's Petaway? Was he even on the field today?
No, I didn't see Petaway at all.
Don't think he took a snap.
Don't think so. No. Don't even think he did.
Gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gone.
He's out. He's out. Go ahead, Matt. Who's your MVP, man?
Unfortunately, so honorable mention Jackson Arnold, because as he spoke about last week, he said, hey, I don't want to play worthless snaps. And now he's getting a chance to show his talent. So really good for him sticking in there. I think it's only going to improve from here. But LVP to the offensive line, giving up another 9 sacks. It's just ridiculous. You can't come to the University of Oklahoma and not protect your player to be able to make plays. And you saw what Jackson Arnold was able to do. And he has just a little bit glimpse of time. LVP offensive line, and unfortunately it's not getting any better. So 9 sacks, going for a world record for how many we're going to give up the rest of the season, because it's not going to get any easier.
Ryan's prediction is about to be the opposite for the preseason prediction, where I think 60 sacks was his goal or something like that.
50. I think
50,
it was 50.
5-0.
We're
going to set
giving
that
up 50.
We're
definitely
giving that up on the opposite side of the ball. All right, folks, let us know your MVP down below in the comments. We read every single one of your comments. Thanks for joining us in this little event session. Oklahoma Falls again. They're 4-4. Maine next week. Thank Christ Almighty.
See you for Maine.
Yeah, we'll be
here.
Hopefully a get right game. Who the hell knows, man? We'll see you then. Midweek pod for the people as well. That's going to do it. Matt, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.